guys, and welcome back to Hard Hitters. I'm your host, Sarah Mankowitz, and today I'm joined with
Lynch, Jake Henning.
And we're going to jump right into it. From last week's games, we've got the Seahawks versus the Bills. This was a very not predicted game, how it ended. It was 34-44 with the Bills winning. I didn't see them overtaking the Seahawks. The Seahawks have looked fantastic this season, and the Bills, well, not so much. But what do you think kind of went wrong for the Seahawks, Jake?
Well, I think that the Bills have been very underestimated this season. Josh Allen's having an MVP-type season. And you saw that he threw over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown.
Oh, he looks amazing.
Yeah, their offense is very explosive. It's a Seahawks defense that is pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a great win for the Bills, who are 7-2 right now. So they're rolling.
Yeah. Ian?
Yeah, we've been talking about all year Russell Wilson, and then this game Josh Allen just came out and outperformed him. And like you mentioned, their defense just continues to be their Achilles heel. So they need to get that straightened out in order to keep on getting wins.
Definitely. I mean, some of the best teams this year just lack in their defenses. I mean, we've seen the Green Bay Packers who do fantastic, but their downfall is their defense. But next, we had the Dolphins versus the Cardinals, and the Dolphins won by 3 points. It was 34-31. But Ian, you had predicted this.
Yeah.
Me and Jake were unfortunately wrong, but you've always had faith in your Dolphins. So explain a little bit what happened.
I mean, the Dolphins have just been doing really well recently. Their defense has been incredible. I think the big thing for the Dolphins is they're not a one-facet team. It's not that they're just relying on their offense or they're just relying on their defense. They're getting it done in all 3 facets of the game. The offense is scoring, the defense is scoring, and they're getting special team points, which is huge. Also, they've just been playing completely different under Tua, and I'm really excited for the future of the team.
I love Tua. Tua's been looking absolutely amazing. Obviously, his first game wasn't as much, but it's his first ever career game, so obviously there's going to be some hiccups, but looked really good this past week. Anything else?
Yeah, like you said, both their offense and their defense has been playing exceptionally well. Their defense actually being the better part of their team. So they're rolling right now. They're 5-3. Tua's had a big game, one of the best games of the season so far, I think. So I'm excited to see how he plays coming up.
Definitely. And then last but not least, we had probably one of the most shocking games of the week. We had Saints versus Bucks. The Bucks only scored 3 points to the Saints' 38 points, which is amazing. Like, Brady couldn't even score 1 touchdown. No one saw that coming. I think we all predicted the Bucks to win it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think went wrong for the Bucks?
Yeah, well, I think the problem for them is they really couldn't get the running game going. They rushed the ball 4 times, one being when Blaine Gabbert knelt at the end of the game. So I think that you have to throw a team off by running the ball and throwing the ball. But Brady couldn't get it going. He threw 3 interceptions, which is never good. But the Saints offense really got it going. They got Michael Thomas back, Drew Brees, and you saw a little bit of that Taysom Hill that they like to throw in every once in a while. So it was a very exciting game.
It was. It wasn't close, but it was exciting.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see. But Ian, anything else?
No, I first off want to say I think Drew Brees is secretly a fan of hard hitters. He called out his play and say he hasn't looked how he normally does, like he should probably just hang it up after this season. But he came out and threw, 4 touchdowns this week? He looked really good. This game was a complete shock. I for sure thought the Bucs had been on a win streak recently, so I thought they were going to just roll over the Saints, who haven't looked that consistent this year, but they proved us wrong.
Yep, and we'll see how AB plays into the Bucks too as well. So moving into this upcoming week, we've got Thursday Night Football. We've got the Colts versus the Titans. Jake, who do you think's going to win?
I'm going to pick the Titans. They had a great win against the Bears last week, so it was a little bit of a close game. But they needed that win after losing 2 in a row. The Colts have been one of those teams where they have a good record, but they've been playing some, fluff teams that aren't as great. So I'm going to go with the Titans this week.
But then Sunday football, we've got Dolphins versus the Chargers.
Yeah, I have the Dolphins as well. Big surprise, I know. But I don't know. I'm really excited because this is the first time we get to see Herbert versus Tua. They were 2 of the, besides Burrow, the 2 most talked about quarterbacks in this year's draft. So I'm really excited to see them go at it. Like we mentioned, the Dolphins defense was really good. And also, like Jake mentioned, the Chargers can't hold on to a lead for their life. So, I mean, Herbert's put them in positions where they could win, but like you said, they just can't get the job done. So I think the Dolphins are going to have it this week.
Definitely. And then moving on, we've got Texans versus the Browns. the Browns have looked a lot better this season than they have last season. So I think the Texans haven't looked good either. I think they've only won about 2 games.
Yeah.
So I think the Browns have got it.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the upset this week. Deshaun Watson has been playing like a top 5 quarterback in the league right now. He's thrown for over 2,400 yards, 17 touchdowns. It's their defense, like other teams in the league, that has really not been helping them. But I think the Browns are one of those teams like the Colts, where the record is good, but it's not really accurate of how they've been playing. So I'm going to take the Texans this week. Yeah.
So we're going to see. And then Washington versus Lions. I said Washington would beat your Giants last week, and that didn't work out. But, I mean, Washington hasn't looked great at all, really. The Lions haven't looked great, but I think the Lions have a better offense than Washington does. I think their defense even takes over a little bit, so I think that the Lions have got it. Beautiful. And then moving on, we got the Jags versus the Packers.
Taking the Jags. Just kidding.
Really?
Just kidding? Is it really?
No. I
Could
got
be another one of the Jets of just J names.
I have the Packers as well. Like you guys mentioned, Aaron Rodgers has looked incredible this season. Getting him back. Sorry, can't talk. Never mind, cut that. Aaron Rodgers has looked great this offseason.
This offseason.
This off. Nope.
Oh, yay.
Aaron Rodgers has looked great this season, and he's gonna continue to dominate this week, I feel.
Definitely. And then moving on, we've got the Eagles versus the Giants.
I think the Giants, they played them 4 weeks ago. They were actually winning most of the part of the game. They were winning with 5 minutes left. They lost the game, unfortunately. But I think this is a different Giants team, honestly, from that week. Their defense has got a lot better. They had 3 interceptions, fumble last week. And I think the offense is finally starting to get their niche going. So I'm going to take the Giants. It's a close game, but I'm going to take the Giants.
Okay, and then we've got Bucks versus Panthers. I mean, the Bucks have been looking good, not so much in the beginning of the season, but then they had like their huge winning streak, and then to only score 3 points this past week.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the Panthers are like an okay team. Like, they're not bad, and they're not like exceptional. They're not the Chiefs. But I think it's gonna be a close game, actually. But I think I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I think the Bucks have got it.
I think both offenses have looked really good, but like we talked about earlier in our previous Hard Hitters episodes, the Raiders are the only team that have beaten the Chiefs. So I mean that's huge. I mean anytime you beat the defending Super Bowl champ, any game you go into, you have the mindset if we could beat the champs, we could beat anyone. So I have the Raiders this week.
Definitely. Then moving on, we've got Bills versus the Cardinals. What do you think about this one, Jake?
I'm going to take the Bills. They're rolling right now. They beat the Seahawks. Josh Allen's been playing really good. Cardinals coming off a bad loss to the Dolphins. I thought the Cardinals were going to be a lot better this season. Kyle Murray, at the beginning of the season, looked like he was going to have an MVP-type season. But Josh Allen has been playing really good, so I think the Bills are going this week.
Definitely. And then we've got Seahawks and the Rams. I think the Rams have got it. The Seahawks didn't look too great this past week, as we saw. We thought they were going to win it, but they did not. I think the Rams have a much better defense overall than the Seahawks. I feel like that's really where the Seahawks lack, and I feel like that's the Rams' main point. I think that's where they are the best. So I think the Rams have got it. And we got the 49ers versus the Saints.
I think they've undermined the Saints a little bit. They're 6-2 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel like they're 6-2.
Yeah.
But the 49ers, they don't have Jimmy Garoppolo. They have Nick Mullins as the backup. They lost a lot of injuries on their defensive line. The Saints have looked really good, so I'm going to take the Saints. Yeah.
Definitely. And then we've got the Bengals versus the Steelers. The Steelers are still undefeated. They are 8-0. They're doing absolutely phenomenal. I mean, everyone down to Juju, no matter who you look at, every single one of their players is not bad at all. They're doing fantastic. So I think the Bengals have also not looked very great this season at all. I feel like the Steelers offense really just trumps it overall, so I think the Steelers have got it. Definitely. And then we've got the Ravens versus the Patriots.
Yeah, I have the Ravens as well. Like we mentioned, they almost lost to the Jets, which is pretty sad. Almost. It's on almost, I guess. But yeah, they just aren't looking good. I mean, I think it's still, like you mentioned, it's Cam's shoulder. It's the new team, new playbook. Everyone's adjusting.
New quarterback after 2 decades.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of readjusting under with the Patriots right now. But like you mentioned, I do think it's going to come down to how Lamar Jackson plays, because when he plays like we know he can, like the Heisman winner, the MVP winner, they're an unstoppable offense. But like you mentioned, they haven't looked like that this year.
So there's hope.
Yeah.
But then going into Monday Night Football, our very last game, we have the Vikings versus the Bears. I mean, neither one of them have looked too great, but I think the Bears have looked better than the Vikings. I think the Bears have a better offense than the Vikings do, and I think that's what's going to make the Bears win.
I'm going to take the Vikings this week. I think Dalvin Cook has made a
sir.
Yeah, I know you like to hear that. Dalvin Cook has made a huge impact on this Vikings offense ever since he's got back. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns the first game he came back. I think he had like 3 touchdowns last game. I mean, he's looked like the best running back in the NFL right now. Can Kirk Cousins limit his turnovers, though? That's going to be the biggest thing against this really good Bears defense. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see how Nick Foles plays. But I think it's going to be a good game, but I think the Vikings are going to win.
Yeah, the Vikings as well. Here comes my FSC bias. You already mentioned Dalvin Cook. Keep on giving that man the ball. He's been... I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you know he's getting the ball almost every drive. So it's like, you know it's happening, you just can't stop it.
Right.
So, like you said, it is going to come down to if Kirk Cousins cannot be his own worst enemy and hold on to the ball. So, I am excited for this game. I'm excited to see Dalvin Cook rack up more touchdowns. I don't know. I know we've been talking a lot about quarterbacks for MVP this season, but out of running backs, I think there's real talk for him to be in that conversation. So, I'm excited for the Vikings this week.
We'll see. All right, thank you guys so much for watching Hard Hitters, and please tune in next week.